A very good morning to you all. You're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. In a breakthrough statement on his social media platform Truth Social, U.S. President Donald Trump said he thinks Ukraine is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back. This follows meetings with European allies and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly.
After getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Why not? Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, a war that should have taken a real military power less than a week to win. This is not distinguishing Russia. In fact, it is very much making them look like a paper tiger.
After their meeting on Tuesday evening, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy called his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump a game changer for Ukraine and the war with Russia. Zelenskyy said there was an understanding that Trump is ready to provide security guarantees to Kyiv after the war is finally over.
Trump is a game changer by himself if he will be sure in Ukraine. And I think that he is more close now to this situation, and that's why, and between us, only Trump can. For today, we know some not too much players in the world who can be game changers, but he's the most closer to this. All of us, we understand that President Trump that he is ready to give Ukraine security guarantees after this war will finish.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has called on members of the UN Security Council to help end Russia's war against Ukraine. Speaking at Tuesday's meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a strong warning to Russia.
Ukraine wants peace more than anyone in the world. The front is on our land, and we mourn our people. And we try to save our cities and to save our small villages. Russia ignores its dead, blind to its own losses. But one day, it will see and it will hear, and it will happen when it sees your actions, when it hears your united call for peace.
So I strongly urge the Security Council, the member states here, and those who are not part of this as well, to do everything in their power, and including the Russian Federation, to do everything within their power, and the Ukrainian side for that matter as well, but all sides, to bring this war to an end before it becomes something that will last another 3 or 4 years, lead to more destruction, both economic and at the same time a loss of life, and loss of property, and loss of futures. This war needs to end. But if it does not, if there is no path to peace in the short term, then the United States and President Donald J. Trump will take the steps necessary to impose costs for continued aggression.
It is very much lamentable that the membership of the Security Council has been compelled today to spend time and be present at a meeting which was initiated by a European colleague purely to mark the latest New York stop on the tour of the well-known former actor. And here we see, squeezed in, as during the subway at rush hour, where we hear, and we will continue to hear, mere replicated statements which have nothing to do with the truth. There is no added value for the establishment of peace in Ukraine.
Никакой добавленной стоимости для дела установления мира на Украине наше заседание, разумеется, не принесет.
Polish President Karol Nawrocki took to the stage at the 80th United Nations General Assembly meeting on Tuesday. In his speech, Nawrocki commented on the recent Russian incursions into NATO airspace, saying that Poland and other EU countries will not be intimidated by Russian drones and planes. Nawrocki also advocated for the creation of a special tribunal to prosecute Russian war criminals and said that what Russia sees as peace would be a total surrender of Ukraine.
Poles and the countries of Central and Eastern Europe will not be intimidated by Russian drones. However, that is not the point. The point is how long we will continue to allow such violations of our national and international community. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, we in Poland are allocating significant funds to the development of our defence capabilities, and that is why we are building not only the resilience of our country, but also of our entire part of Europe. Because the Baltic states, our friends, such as the Estonians as well as Romania, have also fallen victim to similar provocations by Russia. Russia's current actions do not indicate a willingness to pursue genuine peace. Declarations of dialogue, as we know, are accompanied by military offensives and further attacks, whose victims are civilians, including children. Whenever Moscow speaks of peace, what it actually means is the surrender of those it considers its enemies. Russia must end the war and take full responsibility for it. Holding Russia accountable should be our common duty. We must build an international system of accountability that does not hesitate to call evil by its name, regardless of the flag it bears on its shoulder. We must make it clear there are limits, there are human rights, there is international law, and anyone who violates them should face severe consequences.
We have to be very clear that we are serious about our air defenses and that these provocations will not be accepted, said Latvian Foreign Minister Baiba Braže when discussing the recent Russian incursions into NATO territory. She also emphasized that these actions by Russia were intentional and that their purpose was to test NATO's air defenses and reactions.
These drone and jet incursions, so Latvia has experienced a drone falling, Shahed drone falling in our territory. We saw Polish airspace being violated by Russian drones. We saw the jets in a formation violating Estonian airspace. Clearly, it's an intentional action. It's not a coincidence that Russia is launching the drones, launching the jets. They know what they want to do. What they want to do is to test air defenses, to test reactions, to test procedures. So we have to be very clear that we are very serious about our air defenses, our procedures, and signal to Russia that this will not be accepted.
This Sunday, Moldovans will head to the polls to elect a new parliament, determining the country's political direction for the coming several years. While some in Moldova seek further integration with the European Union, there are still people longing for the bygone days of the Soviet Union.
I don't particularly feel nostalgic, but what has recently been happening with the agenda in Europe is some kind of nonsense. I'm not impressed by such prospects either. We are fighting for justice so that all people have guaranteed rights, because we somehow develop this understanding that if we talk about Europe, then we're talking about a foreign place. This is not right.
They destroyed everything that had been built during all those years of the Soviet Union. Everything was destroyed. No collective farms, no plants, no factories. Nothing is left. Only the so-called servants of the people remain. The economy is at zero. Our prices are like those in Europe. Yes, we will live in Europe. We all want this, especially the youth. But what will Europe give us? Will it give me a pension for the work I have done? Or will it give a pension to another person who has not yet retired? What will Europe give us?
The situation on the Polish-Belarusian border is about to change again. Starting Thursday, September 25th, Poland will reopen its border crossing with Belarus, Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced on Tuesday ahead of a cabinet meeting. The crossings had been closed for 2 weeks due to security concerns prompted by Russia's military exercises. Jan Kennedy has this report.
As tensions on Poland's border with Belarus ease slightly, at midnight between Wednesday and Thursday, trucks, cars and trains will once again be able to cross.
I would like to inform you of a decision made together with the Minister of Interior and Administration, who will issue today a directive about reopening of border crossings, both road and rail.
The crossing had been closed since September 12th, due to the Russia-led Zapad military drills which Warsaw deemed aggressive. This followed Poland's downing of several Russian drones which had entered its airspace. Tusk stressed, however, that if Russia or Belarus gives Poland a reason to act, the government won't hesitate to close the crossing again.
If the need arises, if tensions increase, or if there is aggressive behavior from any of the neighbors, we will not hesitate and will once again decide to close the border crossings. But at the moment, it seems that these immediate reasons have lessened.
The decision benefits Polish carriers and facilitates China-EU trade, worth 25 billion euros annually, which is transported through the Belarusian border via Russia to China.
It was used as a tool to exert pressure on Beijing, said Michał Broniatowski, editor-in-chief of TVP World, appearing on News in Depth, talking about a recent closure of the Belarusian border crossings. He explained that Poland's decision to close was prompted by joint Russian-Belarusian Zapad military drills and served both as a security response and a strategic move to signal to Beijing to reconsider its ties with one of its closest allies, Russia.
This time there were just a few thousand Russian troops, and I'm sure Polish government knew about it, and there was, in fact, I don't think any strategic reason to close the border, apart of making a political point, but also harming the flow of exports from China to Europe, so-called Silk Road.
Right.
It's yearly more than $25 billion worth of goods crossing the border between Europe and Belarus and Russia, through which this road is going. And of course, it irritated China. I suspect it may have been used as sort of pressure, leverage against on China in order to convince them to maybe be less supportive in Russia's war effort.
Andrzej Poczobut, a freedom activist representing the Polish minority in Belarus, is alive and well, according to fellow activist Angelika Borys, who visited him in prison on Tuesday. Former leader of the legalized Union of Poles in Belarus, who had been admitted to Poczobut, said the imprisoned freedom fighter remains in good psychological condition and sends his love to friends and strangers alike. She added that she appealed to Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko to release the 52-year-old. A political prisoner under Lukashenko's regime, Poczobut was sentenced to 8 years in prison in 2021 for incitement to act against Belarus. He is now serving the second year of his sentence in a maximum security penal colony in Novosibirsk. Thousands of Slovakians took to the streets on Tuesday to protest budget cuts proposed by populist pro-Russian Prime Minister Robert Fico. The cuts come as Slovakia faces one of the highest public deficits in the EU. Demonstrations erupted in 19 Slovakian cities on the back of the parliament debating new austerity measures. Protesters accused the government of shifting the financial burden onto ordinary citizens instead of cutting back on its own expenses. This is the government's third coalition package. It is worth an estimated 2.7 billion euros and includes higher taxes, increased social contributions, and the elimination of several public holidays. Officials say the plan is designed to tame Slovakia's ballooning public deficit, lowering from 4.7 to around 4.1% in 2026. And so this would be all the latest news for now. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World for more news and features in just a moment.